Hello and welcome to our podcast. Today we'll be discussing the topic of education, in particular how lockdown impacted that for teenagers like us. I'm joined by my fellow hosts, Peter, Emma and Mirrin. Say hi guys.
Hi.
So our guest today is Ryan Thomas Quinn. Ryan is an 18-year-old student journalist at the City of Glasgow College. He's a member of National Union of Journalists, Glasgow Chapel. Ryan is a campaigner for the early diagnosis of childhood cancer after losing his best friend to cancer at the sad young age of 11. Ryan was 13 when the UK government decided to lock the country down, meaning he missed out on his first year at school. Ryan, hi, welcome and thank you for coming in today to talk to us.
Yes.
Could you start by telling us a bit about your background?
I'm a fifer. I am born and bred in Dunfermline. I still live here today. I went to Queen Anne High School in Dunfermline, and I was in first year in March 2020 when the COVID lockdown happened. It was a really strange time for me because as you just mentioned there, my best friend, he passed away um less than a year before lockdown happened. So I suppose in my head that I was already kind of locked down from the world. And then it all happened kind of around me, and it felt like the world had almost caught up to where I was. But obviously it had a massive impact on my education. Going, first year at high school, losing best friend, going into high school, new environment, then suddenly, stay in the house, you can't go anywhere. So yeah, it was really weird.
So how was education for you? Because I know that in primary school, which was when I was locked down, I was in primary school when it happened, we had the choice to either go on Zoom meetings to get an education, or you could go into school, but obviously there was a lot of safety procedures when you were in the school.
So, first lockdown, because obviously the virus was very, very new. Nobody really knew kind of what was going on. It was total shutdown. The building was closed. So we were told we were told a week before the lockdown was actually announced on the Wednesday that schools would be closing for 3 weeks, 2 days later on the Friday. And then lockdown happened. And so that was in March. And I returned into the school building the last week of August that year. So online lessons. Now, some people had better experiences than others. In first year, especially, I had quite a lot of older teachers who were not very technology savvy, shall we say. So I feel like I did miss a lot of, crucial education, because it wasn't so much like a timetable of, okay, so your normal classes will be done online. It was almost like a free for all that if you might have your math teacher doing a check-in at 2 o'clock on a Monday afternoon to make sure everything's going well, and then you'll have your English teacher on Wednesday at 12 o'clock doing a check-in to see if everything's going well. Um and then you might not hear from them for 2 weeks. That's what it was like, and it was just kind of, here's the work, away and get on with it. Which I think, looking back on it, was actually not the right approach. Um, and I think now, looking back, there is a lot of questions that are being asked, at the minute of, was it right to close schools in the first place? And I would say no.
Yeah, because as I did say, we had the choice of online learning and actually going into school. I chose to go into school, and we didn't really do much. We didn't really get much work done, and looking back on it, I think I should have chose remote learning because it was kind of just crosswords and assemblies.
Yeah, and that's the thing as well, is that it just, because it was so new to everyone at the time. I think this is the reason for it anyway. Because it was so new to everyone at the time, because this it happened in 3 days, and the fact of now we're at school, everything's perfect. Oh no, they're closed. Nobody knew what was going on. So trying to, as much as I was trying to come to terms with it, and those around me and us when we were in school were trying to come to terms with it. So were staff, so were management. And looking back on it now, nobody had a clue. Nobody had a clue. And I worry about how much that has affected that younger generation who were maybe P5, P6, P7 when the lockdown happened, because those are the crucial years that kids need to get out. They need to be socializing. They need to, learn different social cues, and that is all gone. So I worry that there will be a lost generation because of these people that lost out on their education.
Mhm. That's a very good viewpoint. So I'm gonna go around the table and ask everyone else kind of basically the same questions that I've asked you. So, Peter, how did lockdown affect your education or mental health?
Well, at the very start, I thought honestly just a wee 3 week off, and then obviously it turned into like a full 2 year, maybe 3 year full lockdown. Um, but I'd say mainly the part that like affected my mental health the most was just not really being able to see any of my friends. Like obviously I'd be able to like I'd be able to speak to them on like the phone or text, and like I would never actually be able to like see them, and it just made me feel really like I don't really know how to explain it. It was just really not the best.
Mhm.
So first of all, when it happened, I was like confused, obviously, and then obviously because I was in like P5 or P6, I couldn't really do anything, and then I didn't really get the choice. And my school said that I had to go into school during lockdown, like I didn't have a choice, obviously, so I was always in school. And in my school, all we done was just sit and watch movies. Like we didn't do like any learning, so we were all just like sitting there, just watching Disney Plus and stuff. Sometimes I would go out and go on walks with Emma and another friend,
Becca.
yeah, Becca. And because obviously lockdown happened at that time, I was staying at my friend Becca's, so I had to live with her for a couple of months because obviously we couldn't leave the house. So me and Becca were just like stuck in her house and we couldn't do anything.
Well, first of all, I thought it was quite good because, like, I was off school, obviously. But once I got more into it, I realised it was a serious subject. Obviously, we couldn't go to school or anything, but see, 'cause I missed out on like half my school years, I feel so stupid. Like, and I tried to stick into high school, but just I couldn't with my mental health and all that.
Everybody here has been obviously impacted by lockdown and the stunt on education in all different ways. So
Right, so guys, we've discussed the topic now, and we've all made it pretty clear how we feel on the subject. So I guess the question now is, what do we think could be done moving forward, and what steps do you think the government and the education system could take to improve things for us? Ryan, do you want to give us your views on that?
Yes, I've done a lot of work on this, kind of in my own time, really looking into the background for the pandemic and what allowed it to happen. So, very, very briefly, the UK government were preparing in their kind of in the health department for a bird flu or swine flu like pandemic. What they weren't anticipating is it would be a coronavirus pandemic. Now, coronavirus is cold, cough, flu, and the plans had to all be changed at the last minute because they misinterpreted what was going to come. That then begs the question of what's going to happen in the future. And I think that, a pandemic is a once in 100 years kind of phenomenon. I don't see or hope, of course, that we don't see another one in our lifetimes, but there is always a possibility that it will happen. I think that there, like I said earlier on, there is serious questions to ask about where lockdowns as effective as we thought they were going to be.
Yeah.
So, does anybody have any questions just before I ask mine?
No.
Okay, so how do we all think that like social cues were impacted? Because obviously we were all in lockdown. We only seen like one or two friends or family members on the rare occasion.
You could message people.
Yeah, you could message people, but it wasn't like you were standing there having a conversation. So a lot of people actually do struggle with that these days. Like,
See,
just
me and my friends, like how we all live in front of each other in the street, we all used to wave to each other through the windows. We used to message each other and be like, go look at the window.
Yeah, but remember, some people, obviously during lockdown, some people were like, obviously, some people were obviously younger, so they didn't have a phone, so they couldn't like text like any of their friends or communicate with them. So it was kind of obviously hard for them as well.
Yeah.
So if they had like no way of getting in contact with any of their friends through like physical contact, even through a wave through the window or like texting, like it would have been pretty solitary and it would have been pretty lonely.
Yeah, because I feel like that's why everyone, like, basically everyone that's a teenager right now is really, like, socially awkward. Like, but I just feel like, if we didn't have, like, a full lockdown, I feel like we would actually be more out there and, like, I want to say enjoying life, but it's not really what I mean.
Like not scared to make social interactions. So what do you think, Ryan?
As I think as humans, we learn everything that we do by watching other people. Like, I don't know if you've heard the whole thing about like babies like learn how to sneeze from watching their parents sneeze, and like they start walking because they see other people walking. But that's the truth, because we learn everything through watching other people do something. Even in school, the teacher's at the whiteboard and this is how you do this, and we're seeing it and we're thinking, okay, right, that's how you do it. So what's happened to the younger generation is that 3 years of that, more or less, has just been ripped. And as you say, they're being stuck in the house. Younger people, they don't have phones, they can't go and communicate with anyone, so they're stuck in the four walls of their house. And I think this probably attributes to now where you're seeing, and it's not so much, it's so much a misunderstanding of social cues, but it's also not just, it's a kind of no grasp on social cues at all, because antisocial behaviour has gone up, skyrocketed amongst young people. But when you look into where it skyrocketed from these P6s, these P5s, 6s, and 7s, who was ripped away from, these 3 years were ripped away from them, and it's not their fault, because they just they don't see, they don't know anything else. They don't know anything else because they weren't able to kind of learn anything else from other people.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of people's concentration has been impacted as well, because like
Absolutely.
some people will like pick up their phones or fidget or draw, or like that's not that some people are doing that now, but like it's not like it's not that bad as long as you can like take in what other people are saying. And a lot of people need like something to fidget with to concentrate. But yeah, a lot of people do that as well.
100%. And I also worry about the content that that is so easily accessible to anyone online. I mean, very, very recently, a thing came in called Online Safety Act, which is if there's content online that's for over 18s, then they should ask for like a verification of age in order to view it. But that wasn't there during the pandemic. And, you know, I can be scrolling on TikTok and something that I don't want, or Twitter, because I use that a lot for my work, and I'm scrolling and something comes up that I really don't want to see. And if I'm seeing that, other people are seeing that. And I worry that, you know, children on screens who are, you know, sitting in their bedrooms and away from their parents, the parents can't see what they're looking at. I worry that that will have a detrimental effect on them. I also worry about the now perceived lack of some young people to have a conversation with someone face to face, like in person. Um, like, you know, people make jokes about like people sitting next to each other and they're messaging each other and they're sitting in silence. But the thing is, it's not actually a joke, and it's not very funny because that's what some people are doing because they just don't know how to have that conversation face to face. And I think maybe the way to combat that would be, it would have to be in school. It would have to be in putting something into the curriculum, almost stuff like a social skills class. On, you know, this is how you communicate with someone. But how sad that things have got so bad that we're actually even having to raise that as a point, you know?
And the thing is, like, I have a little brother and sister, and they both share a phone because my little sister, she broke her phone. But the thing is, I just feel like my dad got it for them so that they could like call if they were ever like in trouble while they're out or anything. But I feel like it's
100%.
just like some parents have a good reasons to give their children phones, but it's also, you do need to monitor that.
I mean, 10 years ago, like, your parents might have given you one of them leapfrog tablets. That I had one, and it was like this big, it was like a brick, and you had to put like a SIM card into the back of it to like play the games. But now time's moved on, everything's digital. Is it totally a bad idea to give, you know, children phones? No, because that's the way that that's the way that the world is going. However, there needs to be a curtail to it because the situation is absolutely out of control. And when, you know, young kids are now losing so much time and so much like learning to screens, what we saw through COVID was 3 years of lost learning. Are we going to see that again with kids having their phones in school?
So guys, see when you're sitting in class, how many phones do you think you'd see on average just at your table?
I would say about 3 or 4ish, because some people do like have their phones out to like text their mums like to say that they feel sick, or like what if the mums text them and like they're in trouble or something, and the school's just telling them to like put them away and like you need to focus on work. But half the people that do that have literally done all their work and they're just waiting on everyone else. So they're all just sitting there texting their mum, asking to go home because they feel sick, because the school do not allow people to go home half the time. Like, say if someone's got like really bad attendance and they've got like really bad mental health and they want to go home, the school just won't send them home. So they always text their mum to come and pick them up and say they've got like a doctor's appointment, but the school tell them to put their phones away and they just don't listen to the children.
Be honest.
Like, is that what you've just what you've just said? Is that like from personal experience or like a friend's or
Personal
just
experience.
I did think so, but what about you two?
The school do not care about your mental health or anything. All they care about is your education.
Absolutely. What was I gonna say? Like, sometimes, like, even if you are actually messaging your mum for like a good solid reason, the most annoying part is the teacher will say, if your mum needs to message you,
She can call the school.
She can call the school and through the office. But what if it's about a personal reason? So it's the one thing is, I remember me and one of my teachers were discussing this a good while ago, probably back in like SD, and she was like, well, if it's something personal, then tell the school to like, I don't know, I can't remember what she said, but it was like one of the most just not right things ever. And she started trying to explain how it's bad for children to have phones, and I just found it really strange because obviously I'm saying that if it's something like bad, like obviously what Mirrin said, how there could be like a death in family.
Mm-hmm.
Like even if you were to be texted that off a family member, the school still would not care. Even if you told them, they would just say to you, get your mum or dad or whoever to phone the school. I just don't think that's right. I think there should be like a limit to what the teachers can stop.
So the thing is, I see it from both points of view, because some reasons for being on your phone are like solid okay reasons, but also a lot of people get distracted on their phones like during valuable work time, and most of the time it is like it's when the teacher's explaining something, and that's the thing, like that's how you're gonna get it.
Yeah.
And then that's how you're going to continue on with your work.
Yeah.
Because, like, I get it if you've, like, finished your work or that, but surely there could be something else more productive to do.
Yeah, see, it's valid to shout at the students if, like, they're watching TikTok or on Instagram or Snapchat or something, but if they're, like, messaging their mum or dad, whoever, then you can't... I don't think that should be allowed.
Yeah, I don't think you should be allowed to either.
But remember, some people might have the family members on Snapchat as well, and that's how they could be on Snapchat at the same time.
Something that producer Pam's just showed me I think is actually very interesting, and I am covering in one of my English classes for a speaking assessment.
Let's hear it then.
So it's saying that Denmark has introduced a later start to classes in some schools to help teenagers get more sleep and improve their productivity. So what do you like think of that?
I think that's a brilliant idea. Because I can tell you right now, every single morning I am late to school because I sleep in.
We know.
It's got to the point that I sleep in so much and I don't go to school, I've had to get a half-time table. So they've said to me either come in at break or lunch because I can like never get up in the morning. So it kind of just like depends. Like if I go to even if I go to bed early, like I went to bed at 10:30 2 nights ago and I woke up at 11:30 the next day. No matter how much sleep like some teenagers could get, like they like obviously still wake up late because obviously they're not getting like enough sleep and they don't go to bed until like 4 o'clock in the morning.
I forget how many like hours of sleep that a teenager needs. Can you look that up, please?
8 hours.
8 hours?
8 to 9 hours. 7 or 8.
I need 20.
So basically, I was researching this for my English class. A lot of the time, teenagers do stay up late, and that is also caused by devices. And which means like when they have to get up so early for school, because some people like myself, I get up at like 6:30, 7:15, which like I used to get up at 6 a.m. like on the dot, which I couldn't do anymore because I needed my sleep, and I was going to bed at like 3 in the morning. But anyways, it says that like between 8 and 10 hours we need of sleep. That is actually a very good point. I was about to get to that. So sleep deprivation for teenagers is actually really crucial to their mental health, and if like we end up with like something like insomnia, like it can cause depression, like we lose focus, can't concentrate, just like as Mirrin said as well, some people just can't come into school because they sleep in. Like sleep is actually very important for everyone, and especially teenagers, and it really helps us focus and concentrate on school.
Yeah, see when I went to school, so like when I started off in S1, obviously I woke up like 6 or 7, but and then as it got into like S3 and S4, I kind of stopped going to school because of my mental health. I'm not going to get into that though, but see, I'd just got like my first proper phone when I went into S2, like my proper phone. I know. And that like messed up my sleep schedule because I was on that all night. My mum and dad literally had to take my phone off me before I went to bed, and I used to go in my mum and dad's room crying, asking for it back.
I feel like school time should start like later, so say about like 9:30, 10.
Mm-hmm.
And then like ending at like 4:30. Because
Yeah.
I feel like obviously us teenagers need like a good amount of sleep, so we could wake up at like 8 o'clock in the morning, then we could get ready and leave for school.
Ryan, what is your views on like the school starting later and the sleep deprivation and that?
You know what? It's one of those questions that sounds really, really simple when somebody says, like, yeah, we should probably start later. And then you're like, yeah, we probably should. The only thing that I kind of would worry about is that I feel like there's maybe more negatives to it than you would maybe first kind of think about. So the reason that the school day, one of the reasons that school day tends to be 9 till 3 ish, is because in the dark, the dark winters, whatever, it's light at 9 o'clock in the morning. It's light at 3 in the afternoon. Um, Whereas at 4, like now, it's nearly 4 o'clock and it's nearly dark. So if you started later, you'd have to finish later, and I would be worried for young students, particularly young female students. They would have to walk home on their own in the dark. Um, and as well, I think it maybe comes down to more of a culture issue because in Singapore, for example, they have their kids in school 14 hours a day, 5 days a week. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. We'd never think of doing anything over here. But over there, that's their culture. In the UK, the culture tends to be that everybody, most people work 9 to 5. Um, so by starting school at 9 in the morning, you've got that um you've got that routine of kind of the universal standard of everything starts at 9, obviously finish a wee bit earlier than 5, but like from like a young age it's kind of drilled into us about what this is the like this is the norm. But I do agree that it is an issue that I think should be looked at.
Yeah. Those are very good points, and I actually do want to come back to the cons of school starting later. That's actually a very, very good point, and I think I'm gonna steal that kids getting home later for my English talking assessment. But there is also like scheduling issues as well. Like there may not be buses, or like it could be like parents have to get out the door to work, or like have to drop little siblings off places, and it would just be easier to drop everyone off at the same time at the same like roundabout place. Some teachers as well, like obviously not all teenagers are morning people. I think like very few actually are, but some of the teachers and some of the older people are morning people, and they like to get an early start to their day as well.
hmm And I think the worry about maybe a later finish as well, another worry could be that exactly what you're saying about, younger people tend to wake up later, older people tend to wake up earlier. And if, an older person is still teaching at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they might not be at their best. And then that could impact the child. But then on the counterbalance, again, because there's always another side, is that school is not for the teacher, school's for the pupil. So how do you accommodate both? I think would be a good question.
So I'm gonna circle back again to education, to life skills and modules. So do we think that we should be taught more useful things in life? Because obviously right now you could ask me about like taxes and like how to like sort out bills and that, and I couldn't tell you. I don't have a clue, honestly. So what's your views on that, and do we all think that schools should teach more of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel like schools don't teach us like that, like stuff that we actually need to learn. Like,
Sorry, on you go.
like they teach us about like the olden days, like in history and stuff. Like they tell us like about like the most randomest stuff, And then in English, you just talk about like the Titanic and stuff, but they don't talk about like what we need to do when we like get old, like what's coming for us and stuff.
Yeah, they
Like-
don't talk enough about
Like
their
they don't talk
futures.
about enough about like our future. They talk about what they done when they were younger.
Because I actually have something to add to that, which I think is quite funny. Sorry, 2 seconds. So in my life skills class, we're talking about death penalty.
Oh,
Like, obviously, like, it's like morals. Like, do we think that the death penalty should be brought back? But the thing is, like, is that really life skills?
No, it's not.
Like, we're also talking about.
It's
yeah.
absolutely not.
We're also talking about that in another class. So basically, we leave that class and then we go to the other one and then we talk about it all over again. Except we don't really talk about the morals of it. We talk about like what there was and like what punishments there were and what you had to do to get that punishment. It was just like we've just talked about this in a life skills class because it was just like in S3 it was like we were talking about like drugs and mental health and that, and I think that was a little bit more useful than the death penalty.
I know this might be a bit TMI, but I think they should talk more about sex education. Because obviously there's literally 12-year-olds out there getting pregnant at the moment. The school only show you body parts and all that. They don't tell you like how a baby's made and all that. They'll talk about the birds and the bees. But not even I understand that story. So they should do it in a more normal way.
I've got a bit of a funny story actually to add on to that one. We all know what people get up to in their own time, young people, and that's absolutely fine. As long as it's legal and consenting, and everybody's happy, there is no issue because it's nobody's business. That's my kind of thing.
That's why I'm glad I'm a
It
lesbian.
wasn't until there is a question of why, teenage pregnancies or 12-year-olds falling pregnant, what causes it. I was 15 when in my life skills class at high school, my teacher took me up to the front of the class and got me to put a condom on a carrot.
I know that as well. Oh my god.
I'm glad to be completely honest here. I'm going to be completely honest. See, my school, we didn't do any of that. See, once in science, don't know what we done. We had to watch someone giving birth, and that was the only thing we've learned about in high school. Someone giving birth.
Maybe because you go to a Catholic school.
No, but
no, it would be.
no, but like they would tell them about like sex and stuff, but they don't.
I watched an elephant give birth once. And
Okay. Off topic, but Ryan, that is absolutely shocking. Like, I'm actually in shock, and I know we're all laughing, but like it is quite like
that's one of the most embarrassing things ever.
yeah.
The thing is, as well, is that it is funny, but at the same time, it's incredibly worrying that we wonder to ourselves, why are these things happening? And then thinking, it took to the grand old age of me being 15 years old before I was taught to put, this is how you use a condom. But on a carrot?
But you know, rather do it on a cucumber than a carrot.
Whatever floats your boat. Whatever floats your boat.
Yeah.
Circling back to what we were saying earlier about should schools teach more useful things. I mean, when our parents were at school, there was a good chance that our mothers may have been taught how to sew, and our fathers may have been taught practical, like woodworking, engineering, electrician stuff, whatever. Electrical stuff, whatever. But over time, as culture changed, and like that's no longer culturally acceptable. Those kind of practical elements were just lost. We should be teaching kids. We should be teaching in high school. Okay, so this is how tax works. We should be teaching kids in school. This is how, hours work, and this is how you input your hours in a job. We should be teaching kids. This is where you can go and volunteer and get stuff for your CV. We should be teaching kids this is how you use a printer. Because what we have is kids like me that can do Pythagoras' theorem to calculate the long side of a triangle without using a ruler, a right angle triangle without using a ruler. But at the same time, I'm getting taught to put a condom on using a carrot. So I think the system needs to focus more on the practical aspects. I mean, this is how you iron your clothes. This is how you operate a washing machine. This is how you cook food and don't poison your household. We should be teaching these things as well as basic numeracy, basic English. For my first 3 years at school, I was forced, without choice, to learn French, Mandarin, and Scots. The only phrase that I can remember in French is parlez vous français, and that took me 3 years. But what could those 3 years, and that was through lockdown, obviously, but in normal times, what could have those 3 years actually benefited towards? Could I have been taught about tax, and this is how you work out your tax code when you get a job, and this is this is how you work out like direct debits, and this is how a credit score works, opposed to being taught a language of a country that I've never visited, and no offence to the French, I've no plans to visit it.
And that's the thing as well. I think that, well, a lot of people take French and Spanish, and obviously you said Mandarin and Scots, which I just think we should get to pick from the get-go what we learn and not have to have everything picked for us up until S3, because that's when we got to choose what we done. And school's been like so much better for me personally since we have picked our subjects, and it's just on that, like, just basic life skills as well. I think that could be very, very useful to people.
Well, that would be a way to increase attendance in school if it was not purely being spoken at, but rather because the system is designed that it's not fully got the child's best interests. It's what the system thinks the child's best interests are. I would think that we would have a lot better over time, attendance would be much higher, and grades would be much better if we were letting kids choose their own path instead of trying to put them into boxes. And saying, like, okay, you can, I understand maybe for the first maybe 6 months at high school, okay, let's do a bit of everything. And then people can see, oh, I like that, I like that, I like that, whatever. Maybe at the end, so then you would choose that maybe changing subjects again second year. If you don't like some, you've got the opportunity to choose again, and then lock them in third year, obviously, for your exams. But I think, I know 25-year-olds that look at a washing machine and don't know what bit the fabric softener goes in. Like me, for 2 years at school, they were taught how to say how old are you in French, and they've also never been to France. So like I think that is, and when you let kids, feel like they are involved in making their own decisions and doing what they actually want to, they'll do it. But if you say, no, today we're going to be doing the periodic table in chemistry, why are they going to want to do that if they're not interested in chemistry? What are they going to do? They're just not going to show up.
Yeah.
That's kind of the thing is in my school, like, you know how you were just like speaking about like languages and like classes with languages? We didn't really get a choice. Like, our school only do Spanish, they don't do French, they don't do Mandarin, they don't do anything else, it's only Spanish. And we can't even drop it because that's the only language class we have. So we're just stuck with Spanish.
When I was in S1 or S1 and S2, I had a Spanish teacher. I'm not going to name drop, but when we were in his class, he wouldn't teach us any work. We would write like one sheet of paper down, like, but it was Spanish and English words, like it was the meanings, like what it meant, and then we would just write that down and play games and do whatever we want, and we didn't get taught anything. And I had this French teacher. She was actually the most rudest teacher on the planet. You could ask her to go to the toilet and she'd shout something like, Baguette, sit down.
Okay, let's like circle back to the conversation.
Right guys, who else agrees that after the discussion we've just had, there's only one person that truly deserves this episode Talking Tatty Award? Bozo Johnson for deciding to lock us all down in the first place. Let's take a vote on it. All in favour of Bozo Johnson receiving the Talking Tatty Award, raise your hand and say aye! Aye!
Aye.
Right, that's settled in. Producer Pam, is there any way you can get that arranged for us, get that award sent to that sausage?
Absolutely.
Thanks, Pam.
That was an interesting conversation we had today, guys. I'm glad we've been able to come together and talk about this today. Our next topic is to discuss what we will rise in teen violence, knife attacks and what's going on in teen culture that's helping us to contribute to this.
Join us for that, where we will have a very special guest, a man who is deeply involved in the attempt to combat this problem, Jimmy Paul, who heads up the Scottish Violence Reduction Unit. Jimmy has kindly agreed to join us to discuss this and give us his unique take on this issue and also what's also being done to try and combat it. We also have Harvey on to talk to us about his experience of being jumped by a gang while he and a few of his friends were playing football 3 years ago. Harvey was 14 at the time, but is still affected by that, so he will be joining us to talk about how being a victim of a gang violence has impacted his life.
Okay, so we have covered what we're covering next week, and I think we had a great conversation today.
You done good for
Ryan,
the first episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did actually. I'm really proud of it, to be honest.
Ryan, thank you for coming on today and sitting with us.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys. Thank you very much.
Thanks, bye.